In the dusty, forgotten annals of a dynasty, there lies the story of a master thief, renowned not for his brute force, but for his uncanny ability to open any lock without a key. People whispered he was a sorcerer, that he could make metal bend to his will. But his secret was far more mundane, yet infinitely more powerful. He wasn't a locksmith, he was a student of human nature. He understood that every lock, no matter how intricate its mechanism, was created by a human mind. And every human mind, no matter how clever, harbored a fatal flaw. His key wasn't metal, it was a question: what weakness was the lock's maker trying to conceal? What was their fear? Their arrogance? Their shortcut? He would study the lock's design, not for its strengths, but for the subtle signs of the creator's psyche. A lock that was overly complex was a testament to the creator's ego, and thus had a predictable, hidden weakness. A lock that was too simple was a sign of complacency, and could be broken by an unexpected action. He never broke a lock, he simply spoke its creator's language, a language of vulnerabilities. This is not a tale of theft, but of a profound and often uncomfortable truth: the most formidable barriers are often undone not by force, but by understanding the cracks in their very foundation. In a time of great upheaval, when the state of Qi was under threat from the powerful state of Yang, there lived a legendary strategist named Tian Dan. The state of Yang, led by the ruthless general Yu Yi, had swept through Qi like a plague of locusts, conquering over 70 cities in quick succession. Only 2 cities remained unconquered, Jimor and Zhu. The king of Qi was forced to flee, and the people despaired. The state's army was decimated, its treasury was empty, and its spirit was broken. Tian Dan, a lesser official of Jimor, was a man of quiet cunning, not a renowned warrior. He saw that the enemy's strength lay not just in their numbers, but in the psychological dominance they had established. The Yang army, led by the brilliant and seemingly invincible Yu Yi, was confident, even arrogant, in its victory. Tian Dan knew he could not defeat them with conventional force. He would have to wage a different kind of war, one of perception, psychological manipulation, and exploiting the subtle cracks in the enemy's morale. First, Tian Dan focused on the weaknesses of the Yang people themselves. He understood that the people of Yang, while loyal, were also deeply superstitious and pragmatic. He spread rumors that the Yang army was desecrating the tombs of the Qi ancestors, angering the gods. He then ordered the people of Jimor to sacrifice to their ancestors at every crossroads, a display of piety that infuriated the Yang troops, who saw it as an act of defiance. This action was not about worship, it was about provoking the Yang soldiers, making them feel disrespected and thus prone to rash, emotionally charged decisions. Next, Tian Dan exploited the weaknesses within the Yang army itself. He knew their supply lines were stretched and their discipline was beginning to wane after a long, successful campaign. He also understood the deep-seated pride of their commander, Yu Yi. Tian Dan devised a series of cunning stratagems. He sent spies to Yang to spread false rumors that Tian Dan himself was a coward and incompetent, and that the only reason Jimor had not fallen was because a new Yang commander, Le Jiao, was secretly planning to usurp Yu Yi's position. He fabricated reports that Yu Yi was holding back from attacking Jimor out of fear or personal gain, intending to keep his troops comfortable and avoid a bloody final battle. This was a masterful stroke of psychological warfare. The Yang king, already insecure and prone to suspicion, grew increasingly paranoid. The prolonged siege of Jimor, with no end in sight, became a source of political instability in his court. He began to believe the rumors and recalled Yu Yi, replacing him with the younger, more aggressive general, Le Jiao. Le Jiao, unlike Yu Yi, was impatient and arrogant. He viewed the siege of Jimor as a stain on his reputation and was determined to end it swiftly. Tian Dan, having studied the psychological profile of his new adversary, knew exactly how to proceed. He intensified his deceptive tactics. He sent agents to the Yang camp to spread rumors that the people of Qi would rather die than surrender to Yang's new general, Le Jiao. He ordered the people of Jimor to feign terror, to send out messengers begging for peace, all while secretly preparing a final, audacious gambit. The climactic moment arrived with Tian Dan's most brilliant and most outlawed stratagem, the fireballs. He collected 1,000 oxen, dressed them in flamboyant red silk embroidered with dragons, and attached sharp daggers to their horns and bundles of reeds soaked in oil to their tails. At the dead of night, he opened the city gates and lit the bundles of reeds. The oxen, terrified and in pain, charged out of the city, their flaming tails creating a terrifying spectacle in the darkness. They stampeded directly into the Yang encampment. The Yang soldiers, caught completely by surprise by this surreal and terrifying sight, were thrown into chaos. Amidst the confusion, Tian Dan's army, a small but fiercely motivated force, launched a surprise attack from all sides. The terrified Yang soldiers, thinking they were under a divine assault, scattered in every direction. The retreat turned into a rout, and the once mighty Yang army was completely shattered. Tian Dan, with his small force and a deep understanding of his enemy's psyche, had not just defended a city, he had liberated an entire nation. He didn't win by outfighting his enemy, he won by outthinking them. The lesson of Tian Dan is not merely a tale of military strategy, it's a timeless principle of exploiting the hidden weaknesses of an opponent. He didn't confront the strength of the Yang army, he exploited the weaknesses in the Yang leadership's paranoia, the soldiers' overconfidence, and the cultural beliefs of their people. His weapons were not steel and bows, but rumors, perceptions, and carefully orchestrated psychological ploys. This is a subtle yet lethal form of cunning, often considered outlawed because it operates outside the traditional rules of engagement, using manipulation and deceit to achieve victory. It is the art of turning a vulnerability, a fear, or an arrogance into a fatal disadvantage for your opponent. The ancient wisdom of Tian Dan is profoundly relevant in modern life, applied not to battles of life and death, but to conflicts in business, work, investment, life, and relationships. In business, this means understanding that a competitor's greatest strength can also be their biggest weakness. For example, a large, dominant company's strength is its market share and resources. But its weakness is often its slow, bureaucratic decision-making process. A nimble startup can exploit this by moving faster, innovating more quickly, and targeting niche markets the larger company deems unworthy of their attention. Similarly, a rival's overconfidence in a product can be exploited by highlighting its subtle flaws or its lack of adaptability to new market trends. You don't attack the fortress, you find a crack in its wall. In work, navigating office politics or career advancement often requires this kind of strategic thinking. You don't always confront a rival colleague head-on. Instead, you might understand that their weakness is their need for public recognition. By allowing them to take the spotlight on less critical projects, you can subtly expose their lack of substance while you focus on a more impactful, behind-the-scenes initiative that will ultimately prove more valuable. It's about understanding your boss's anxieties or a teammate's insecurities and positioning yourself as the solution, not the problem. In investing, this principle is paramount. A stock that is overvalued due to market euphoria is strong in price, but weak in fundamental value. A cunning investor doesn't chase the euphoria, they identify the underlying weakness and short the stock or invest in a more fundamentally sound, undervalued competitor. This requires patience and a detached perspective, a refusal to be swayed by the crowd's overconfidence. In life, whether dealing with a difficult negotiation or a disagreement, this wisdom is invaluable. Instead of a direct argument, you can find the other person's broken bridge, a deep-seated desire for control, a fear of being disrespected, or a need to be seen as the expert. By first validating their feelings or acknowledging their expertise, you can subtly disarm them and create an opportunity to introduce your own perspective without triggering a defensive response. You're not fighting their strength, you're accommodating their weakness to reach a resolution. In relationships, this wisdom takes on a gentler but equally profound form. Understanding your partner's insecurities or fears isn't about exploiting them, it's about nurturing them. If a partner is afraid of rejection, your strength lies in providing unwavering reassurance. If they are sensitive about a past failure, your power lies in celebrating their small victories. This is about using knowledge of a vulnerability to build trust and strengthen the bond, turning a potential weakness into a source of mutual support. The story of Tian Dan teaches us that true power is not always loud and obvious. It is often quiet, subtle, and unseen. The ultimate victory belongs not to those who can muster the most force, but to those who can see the subtle vulnerabilities that lie beneath the surface of strength. The most formidable barriers are often overcome by not attempting to break them, but by finding the emptiness within them. Just as the master thief found his key not in metal but in the mind, and Tian Dan found his victory not in strength but in perception, so too can we navigate our own challenges by looking beyond the obvious. The greatest cunning is not in knowing what to do, but in knowing what your opponent will do, and why they will do it. For in the end, the most dangerous weapon is not the one held in your hand, but the one you plant in your enemy's mind.